Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Meadors of GalacticConnection.com. And what I am doing here today is interviewing Jerry and Steve and myself. We're going to have a little bit of a roundtable here to review the details, the information behind the soul alignment and the DNA activation. This has been in the works for quite some time, and we wanted to make sure that there's some clarity in why this is such a significant step after the implants are removed. So today what we're going to do is we're going to try to bring some more information forth on exactly what is accomplished through the soul alignment and the DNA activation. And before I get started and jump into all the details, I'd like to introduce Jerry Yusko. Jerry, say hi.
Hello.
And Stephen Meadors. Steve.
Hello, everyone.
So all three of us are on this interview because we all participate in this process. And it's very near and dear to our hearts. And it was something that was literally provided, given, directed, and guided by Reverend Pam Plauché. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure was that there are no fuzzy question marks as to what's really being accomplished. Now, the first thing that happens is we will receive your order, and then we will send out your own essence and your own oils. The essence is called Returning Home, and that was actually given to me divinely by Saint Germain and Merlin, who I do a lot of work with. And the reason for that is the whole purpose on my end from the galactic alchemical aspect is to assist you in promoting the clearing and removal of the parasites that were actually put out by the implants, to assist you with the grounding. You know, now that you've had your implants out, a lot of times the body is just so high and so happy to have those things out of the actual physical. It's working on a lot of repair work on your grid, your auric field, your soul, just all the fragmentation that's occurred. It works on that and any holes in your etheric field. It's working on helping you begin your process of really, truly breaking free, especially because now that you have the implants out, there's so much more to really, truly being free, and that is relinquishing all of the programs that come along with that. And we are just multi-layered in those, folks. And then we also support you by holding the changes that you're going to be going through, and, just supporting you in transitioning into your true divine state. Now, this essence was amazing. I created this over a period of about 4 days over a full moon, and I made it from scratch. So some of the ingredients are gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which is no surprise, huh? And it also was very involved with sacred geometry as well as color. And, of course, I worked very hand in hand with Saint Germain and Merlin. So that gives you a little bit of that on the essence. Now, the oils, same situation. I was guided divinely as to what to put forth with the oils. And again, they're supporting your body through this transition on a more physical state. But what a lot of people don't know about the oils is they will break through the brain barrier very quickly. And I'm actually offering you kind of an anointing and an initiation as you rub the oils on the balls of your feet. So it's all part of a process. And this is the support element. I mean, there's no one out there that does what we do. It is a very beautiful process. It's much easier on the body than when you had your implants out. And it's something that I hope all of you will enjoy as much as Steve and I have. In fact, Steve, since you've had your soul alignment and DNA activation, what would you say are the core changes that you've noticed?
Well, the first thing is, it's weird what happened. It felt like my heart center, actually, where my soul resides, actually moved down a little bit from my heart. It's like in the, right in the center of my chest. And when I tap in to source or, anything else, it just feels like it's just coming from that location instead of like all my chakras.
Well, that's nice.
And I thought that was very interesting because it's like I'm more centered now.
More in balance with your right and left hemisphere. It's almost like the yin and the yang, right?
Right, because everything's coming from one location. It's almost like it's coming from my soul instead of just coming from my body.
Okay. Now, have you noticed anything else, since you've had it done?
Well, at first it was hard to get used to it. It almost felt like I was a little bit disconnected at first. But then when I got used to coming from that center, then everything just started to open up. I believe I'm more psychic now. My abilities have just skyrocketed as far as, healing. I started to do personal healings on people. Everything just started opening up as far as, the spiritual side of me.
Now, that's interesting you say that because that's exactly what I feel. I feel that there was about a couple of week period, and that's just for me, where I was not really clear on my connection, and only because we have a very specific way of, as we say, tapping in and communicating with our guides and with Prime Creator and the All Is. And so we're kind of a creature of habit. And when you do this, because of the alignment that's going down, you have to be open to making some changes accordingly. And the changes are very, very subtle. It's really more of an allowance because your higher self will talk to you. You will get very specific guidance, and everything will just flow. It'll just kind of unfold. You'll find that it's so much more expansive and less restricted, and just a different kind of connection. And I too have noticed my psychic abilities have soared. My alchemical, creations have definitely become even more complex, and I thoroughly enjoy the information that's coming in. I'm able to, how do I say this, assimilate it in a different way. I'm able to see it in a more expansive way. And so it's really assisted me with my work and what I enjoy doing. So with that said, and that kind of gives you all just the gist of the essences side of it and the oil side of it, Steve, did you want to talk about what happens once I've created the formula and we then fill the order?
Okay, what happens at that point, it's all a process, and we've come up with this process, and we follow it to the letter. So after the essences come to me for shipping, I actually feel the bottles physically and also energetically. So I feel all those essences into the bottle, and it's all a process that I just do. It's just like a ceremony that I do when I make these, or when I seal them. And once that's done, then I bring them out, and I'm putting all that energy into them, actually, as I'm wrapping them, as I'm putting them in the packages, and until they get shipped out. Sometimes I even put a crystal in with, if it's going to another country that we're kind of concerned about the package getting there, then I'll actually put like a crystal in there so we can put, I can put the energy into that crystal so it makes it through customs and all that kind of stuff and gets to our the people that we're trying to ship to.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, it's all a process. And one other thing I wanted to say is that I have a different way of tapping in now. I used to just come through, breathe through all of my chakras and everything else, and try to come from my heart and all that. And now what happens is I bring source energy in through my crown chakra. I bring, the earth energy up, and it mixes in that center part where my center is now, because my center has changed. So, and then everything mixes there, and it just flows so much better.
Yeah, it does. And you know what? Also mentioned, you and I had a conversation the other day about the chakras, and how, that's changed. Can you go into that a little bit, using the chakras?
It's really weird because I don't really use that many chakras anymore. I use my crown and like my root to, connect to earth. My crown connect to source, and I still use my third eye, but it's almost like the rest of my chakras, I don't, everything usually comes from that heart center,
Yeah.
And it's just below my heart chakra now. So it's actually dropped down a little bit, and it almost feels like that's where my soul is residing.
Right. It's as if we never really experienced that physicality of feeling the soul within the body, because it was such a foreign frequency for the soul to be in the same location as all of the implants. So,
right.
There definitely is. That's really where the adjustment comes from initially, folks, is that you're so unaccustomed to being back in your own divine alignment. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So with that said, we're now going to pull in Jerry and talk about the actual process itself. So, Jerry, thanks for your patience. Now, what I wanted...
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, what I wanted to do is just kind of start from the beginning as to what you do with each of the clients, and explain why it's done, and, just all the guidance that you've received. It'd be very interesting.
Before I do that, can I make a brief comment real quick?
Of course, of course.
I too went through the process, and I was one who was blessed with having Reverend Pam do the implant removal for me, and I experienced quite a bit from that. So I also had the pleasure and the honor of working with her, and I learned a lot. I do miss her dearly, and on that, I am grateful and honored that I was able to take over her spot when she became ill.
Yeah.
So she was a wonderful lady, and she did open me up more to what I can do for other people, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here today.
Well, I agree.
So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. I guess we all feel that way. I've gotten countless emails from people all over the world, because Pam really truly touched so many people's lives with her fire and her passion and her desire to really assist in the freedom on this planet, because I think that's, Steve's and my core commitment is to try to assist in bringing more freedom to this planet. And I really feel this is absolutely one of the most important things to do in order to accomplish that. So now, once the person has their implants out, Jerry, why would they want to go to this next step?
Are you talking about the...
soul alignment.
Well, as we call it, the soul alignment. You're right, the phase 2. The reason why people actually should have it, is because once, and this is what I discovered for myself with Reverend Pam, once you do have the implants removed, you're free. But you're not necessarily all connected, because throughout time, you've been defragmented. Your essence basically has been in different dimensional timelines. When you come back, like I had a rough, when she removed the IRP on me, the implant removal, it was really hard. I mean, I felt it.
Yeah, me too.
And
I did too.
But I experienced so much after it.
Right. Totally.
Why I signed up, and this brings us into why it's so important to have the soul alignment. Because once you become healing, you're healing the body. Now you need to start becoming connected back. Not only was your physical mind, your mental mind, your emotional mind, and your soul, but also your spirit needs to be reconnected through space and time. Okay. And what I basically do is I go back to the beginning before time, just before the creation of light, and there's where I start working with you.
Fantastic.
And I have learned, because it can be a painful process, I have developed a technique to basically help people through this process. And if we do our job right with the essence oils, and what I'm doing, they might feel some discomfort, but think about it this way. When you have been scattered throughout time in different dimensions, and you are reconnecting to yourself through different aspects of time, almost an ancestral cleaning, to bring all that energy back, all that new alignment of connection.
So what's your...
When it emerges into your body, you will feel the energetic change.
Yeah, I mean,
now,
it's so powerful, you can't not feel it, you know. Anyway.
Well, here's the great thing. I've developed a technique, and I have shown you what I do. I actually start working on the person 24 hours before their actual process begins.
Okay. And how do you do that?
Well, as you know, I ask for pictures of people now.
Yeah.
And because I am also a healer by trade, I can go in and I can see the energetic energy around people. I can feel empathically or intuitively things that they need. I have found out some people do need a healing before I can even start on them.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important, because some people, when they get the first process done, you can feel fantastic, but you can still feel disconnected, because it's a 3-part process, and Pam was very brilliant on that, because it's one thing to heal the physical body, but then you need to heal the spirit as well.
Yeah.
And the soul within. And the other part is, once you do that, to make sure that you have the strength, the fortitude to go into the other part, which is the third part. Now, in our procedure, we actually really do take care of the customer. I'm so happy that you do provide the essential oils for them.
Uh-huh. And
then on my part, as you well know, I've shown you that I actually do, when I go out and I bring them back from the beginning of time back to present day on reconnection, and they are anointed. With one of the processes I do with the reports, I anoint every single report that I do. And I do energetic work, just like you put into your bottles.
Yeah.
I put that energy into the work that I do.
You know what's interesting, Jerry, not to interrupt, just to interject, it's very interesting how you and I came up with our separate processes, as did Pam and I. And we both ended up reaching the same goal because we were both led to provide an anointment of the individual.
Very important process, I believe.
Yeah. It's interesting how you're doing it from your end and I'm doing it from my end. So it's almost like top down, bottom up, kind of thing. But anyway, go ahead.
There is so much involved in what I do, because we do give out a report, and I really do, from the beginning, go back to their spirit and on the soul connection, back to the beginning of when they're being first created into a light being. And that's when we start doing the process right there. Of reconnecting. And I have found out that on some people, I can still feel their pain, and other people, they just go so easy back into their spirit. But with everything that we do, Alexandra, I'm so used to my mother watching over me. Because I believe that when I'm working, she helps guides me.
She's amazing. Have you been feeling her working with you even more so now?
Yeah, that's why I accidentally Freudian called you.
I have too.
Pam, so and I apologize for that, but I want to keep the honor of her work up and going.
Big time.
And what I learned and what we do for the customer, we go so far beyond. I mean, I'm doing crystal grid work with them long before the actual process takes place. And then after we're done with all that, I actually hold them, their image. They send me a picture of them.
Uh-huh.
And I actually will talk to them and regress back with them all the way to the beginning of time and start connecting them spiritually. From that point, which, like I said, the Christ consciousness, the Christ energy, and the Christ light, merging with our higher self to become one.
That's fantastic. So basically, you said that you already began 24 hours ahead of time, and you were saying that you go through this process. Now, first you begin what? Tell us what's the very first thing that you do.
On the soul connection, I basically will go through and I will get their information, and then I'll put it into the report. And then once I print it out, I have stage in my room. I create my room kind of like a temple.
Uh-huh.
So everything is basically in the highest spiritual content that I can get it into. Once I do the.
Well, I was just going to say I agree because I've seen your house. So go ahead.
Okay. So once I print out the report and everything, I call in the angels. I have tuning forks to do that, and I will go ahead and I will call in the angels. Then I anoint their picture or their name and the paperwork. And I showed you that before, remember?
Yes. Now, I have a question for you, Jerry, because people will ask, which angels are you working with, number one? And number two, what is your feeling about some of the information that goes around about, the angels are part of the demiurge and they're like a negative force that we shouldn't work with and that kind of thing?
It depends on what angels you are working with. I will say that. I work with the highest intent of my spiritual aspect of the angels of Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Saint Germain, Peter. I work with the Ascended Masters as well.
Yes. Okay.
And one of the things that I really want people to understand, before I even start working on them, I go through a ritual where I actually clean myself. I anoint my own self. I do a meditation. I do a prayer. I make sure that I'm in the right frame of mind, and I meditate. So when I bring in their energy, I can connect to them.
Very good.
And everything is done out of the highest integrity for the person that we are working on.
So Jerry, if you were to have someone ask you, oh, you shouldn't be working with anybody but direct Prime Creator, for example, what would your response be?
I say I do. But here again, I am very blessed. From a young child, even before having extraterrestrial contact, which helps me in the first part of the process that we do.
Okay.
I even think I told you this before. I've been spiritually taught from a very young age. My mission in life, as I told you, was to be a healer and help rise the vibrational energy of people upon this world, because human beings are beautiful, fantastic beings.
Yes, they are.
And the way I look at it, the people that come to us, they are asking us to help them to the highest integrity that we can do.
Absolutely.
And the beings that I work with, the angels I work with, and the Christ energy I work with, I've done this all my life, so I can tell the difference in vibration. The one thing you should know about me is I do know about energy. I know quite a bit about the physical laws of the universe. I know quantum physics. I know theoretical principles. So when I work with the angels, I can tell whether they're working for the best purpose for the person or not. And like I said, since I clear the room before I even start, and I make my room a sanctuary, no, I don't believe that any negative energy could get in. And even if it did, when we go back from the very before the time of time, after that point, what we do, there is no negative energy at that point.
Right.
Because nothing in creation formed to be negative to the point that I go back to.
Right.
And that is when I ask for the light of their higher self to come into their present being. And we go through a process on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So now before you dive in to actually do the soul alignment, the second phase, I should say, can you finish clarifying for us what exactly you do in preparation for that experience?
Are you talking about
the day before,
The day before, in fact, I'm doing this now.
Right.
I have work coming up tomorrow for people at a certain time. I printed out already the work. I've already anointed them. I've already blessed them. I've already brought in the angels. I already staged the paper.
Wow.
I do a meditation, and I ask for blessings and an honor, because these people who do this honor me.
Oh, I so agree with that, Jerry. And don't you, Steve? I mean,
yes, I do.
Yeah, Steve and I talk about that all the time, and we were so truly honored to be able to be here to serve others and to do it in the most purest, highest integrity fashion that we can. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. This gets back to what Jerry was saying earlier about Pam. And it's really weird because one of the last times I talked to Pam, before she passed, she basically told me that if anybody was going to take her place, it would be Jerry.
Oh.
Oh, thank you.
Wow. How sweet.
And I just burst into tears when she said that. And we're so happy to have you, Jerry. We really miss Pam, but we're so grateful to have you.
You know,
and I'm so grateful to be here.
And I'm glad that you said that, Steve, because I know, Jerry, it's probably been a little bit challenging for you to feel like you have to sort of step in her shoes. She's had such an impact on the world and the Bardians and the light workers that have stepped forward to do these processes. So I know it hasn't been maybe easy from that standpoint, but you really, truly are making your mark, and we are receiving, you know, great feedback. Now, once people kind of process this data and process kind of a different way of being, you know, I mean, I have people writing in saying, wow, I'm looking back on the process and the journey, and, you know, they're so grateful because they're no longer in that restrictive thinking. You know what I mean? Being like a restrictive spiritual person, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
You know, one of the greatest gifts that I try to bestow upon people when I reconnect them is to have them remember who they are and their connection to why they came here. And I've shown you before, I have Atlantis technology that I made. You remember my photonic crystal that I showed you?
Yeah.
I use that in all three stages of my work. And the reason why I do that is because it brings the light of energy of healing into the physical realm of this physical body right now at this time.
Interesting.
So one thing I do like about that, and if people do feel anything at all, it would probably be on stage 2 and 3. I know that stage 1, I try to make it as painless as possible. As I told you, on stage 1, I try to take the pain and the process that they would normally go through, and I've learned from it. I've learned how to make the process easier. But on stage 2 and 3, because I'm dealing directly with the individual, and they have to blend with their body or reacclimate to their body, that can be sometimes very challenging for a person because it's like a new awakening. It's like realizing your energetic body again, becoming into oneness. And that is why I work with the Ascended Masters, the angels, and their higher self all the way to the process of the connection of the soul alignment. And that's why it is called the soul alignment, because that's basically what we're doing from the very beginning of creation. Right. We're going back, and we're walking them through their ancestral path of forgiveness, of cleaning them, purifying them, vindicating, and helping them remember who they are and what they came here for. So the soul alignment and the DNA is really important. And this is where I'm so grateful for Pam, because he had the foresight of being able to understand that the first process of getting rid of the parasites and the negative energy around you is very important. But unless you take the other two, in my opinion, to really reconnect back to the physical body and start living the full purpose of what you came here for by remembering who you are and the energetic energy that you can bring forth by feeling the purification through time and the forgiveness of absolution by grace, that is the beauty of the process, I think, that we offer our clients.
You know, I wanted to say something too. It's really important for all of us that are seeking to be free of amnesia. You know, I think that's like a biggie for all of us. Just being free to remember who we are, remembering our gifts. It's not a question of if we have gifts. I don't care who you are. It's a question of how to reinstate or remember or begin activating those gifts. And I think Steve and I both agree that this is a real process. It's a real journey. And it took me, I think, it really started clicking in, say, 3 or 4 months after Pam did the process on me, that I really started skyrocketing in my gifts. And I've been asking for this for so long. So I think, Steve and I've noticed that everything is synchronous. Everything is connected. The messages come in so much more cleanly. You know, the communications are more pristine. You know, I mean, that's the part that I had been craving for so long. And I want to remind people that this is a journey. This is not like take a pill and wake up tomorrow. You know, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, in any spiritual process, there is an unfolding of your leap in consciousness. And that leap in consciousness is only as great as, number 1, you're ready for, number 2, you desire, and number 3, how much you're allowing it to occur. You know, you're allowing it to unfold. And I just wanted to know, Steve, did you want to comment on that too?
Yeah, well, I think I already have with, you know, I never thought I was really a healer or anything like that, but then my gifts just started to just blossom. And, you know, the clients I work with, they're just like, you know, they're amazed at what I can do, and I'm amazed that it's like these gifts were just, it's not like they were given to me, they just opened up.
Right. And I'd like to say that I've seen your ability to heal. You just never really owned it. You never really thought of yourself that way. I've always seen you as a friend,
right.
You know?
But, you know, there's something that I need to ask Jerry, because this is something that, you know, Pam agreed with, but I don't know what Jerry thinks about it, is how it's almost like, you know, I used to try to come from my heart, which it was really hard for me to do. And I was always coming from my brain. And then I had to, I used to do this thing where I, took an elevator from my brain down to my heart, you know, to connect it. And now, since the soul alignment, it's dropped down a few inches. And it feels like that's where my soul is. And that's where all my power comes from. And that's like my power center and my heart center now, but it's below my heart chakra. So I just wanted to ask Jerry, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, why is that, and, you know, what's going on there?
If I understood the question correctly, you're talking about your gifts and abilities, or are you talking about the energetic energy that you're feeling?
Well, no, it's just where I feel everything now. And it's like, it's just underneath my heart chakra. It's almost like my soul.
Have you ever heard of the second heart?
Center parts.
Steve, have you ever heard of the second heart?
Separate hearts?
We have a second heart. We have a first heart, which is human, and then we have a spiritual heart, basically. And
okay, so you're saying it moves down into my spiritual heart.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're coming from the spiritual aspect of your energy instead of the physical. And this is basically where I'm trying to get people to go to when they go from the first to the second, which would be an ascending process, becoming reinconnected back into the energy of what we used to be as humans, and taking this new energy from the galactic center and using it to become one again within our higher self, and being able to take that energy and actually to start becoming more in alignment with the Christ abilities or the Master's abilities. And that's what it sounds like you're doing. If you're working with the second heart chakra, if I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, I think so. And that's where when I do healings on other people and, I do my dowsing and stuff, it's always coming from that, like, second heart. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't even know that existed. I just thought that was my soul that resided in that spot.
Some people might think it is, but from my understanding, it's the second heart. And it's a spiritual heart. And it's the highest form of unconditional love and giving, in my opinion. And there's where I come from also when I'm working with people, because I love being a healer. I love doing what I do. And it literally comes from the spiritual second heart. And that is what, as anything, the blessing that I got from going through this process of having the implants removed from me. Now that was a true blessing by Pam.
Huge.
Because I was like you, Alexander. I felt the impact because I'm empathic and I can feel what she was doing. But as the days went on, that's when I started opening up and walking into my power.
Yeah, it was like that's such a good point. It was such a power booster because nobody else was in my cockpit anymore. You know what I mean? I was truly driving my own ship, but I think you made a good point about, once you have that done, the reason that the soul alignment and the DNA activation are so important is, yeah, you've got your ship back, you've got your Merkaba back, but now what? Right? Because we're so not used to operating in this reality, no matter how spiritual we are, with that ability to maneuver, from the true divine essence that you really are.
And it took about, since she did that, it took about probably 3 and maybe 4 months for it to actually drop to that location. To go to my second heart.
Yeah.
It wasn't instant. Yeah. It took a while, and then just within the last couple months, that's when my abilities just really took off.
That's a good point. So now, Jerry, can you explain to people, because one thing you have done, in addition to what Pam had already been providing, is you really give a detailed analysis through the implant removal process of what you're extracting. So, for example, you're much more detailed regarding the implants, and people aren't just getting 4 implants; they're getting up to like 15 implants removed. Can you kind of go over that a little bit for a minute?
Okay. When I do the reading on them in the very beginning, like I told you, that's why I like having their picture or their name, so I can go in and feel what's happening. Almost every single person that I encountered, just like Pam probably did, from the forehead all the way down to the heart, there is basically some kind of a blockage there.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's not surprising because these parasites, they basically travel throughout the body and they latch on. Different people have different parasites in different parts of their body or some other places. They don't always have them the same. I sometimes wish I could give more detail, but then we'd have like about 80 pages, I guess. I don't know. But what I'm doing is I'm really scanning their bodies, and I'm looking for the major things that I need to clear. right from the very get-go, the things that would make them feel the impact of the removal. And that's why, again, I do a 24-hour process before I even start on them. So these entities are already being cleared out. They're already being, they know that their time is numbered.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have my extraterrestrial connections from early age, when I do a person, I also ask to find out what else is with this person at this present time. Now, on the chart, as far as the entities go, or the intrusives, you have demonic possession. Very few people have that. But even if they did, I do get rid of anything that I find demonic on them. Non-physical entities. Basically what that means is you can have what they call waywards around you. People that have just passed over are loved ones that are around you. And, you know, like if you ever went to a medium and they go, I see your mom or dad.
Uh-huh.
They're not harmful. But sometimes they might not be people that you want. For example, you go across an accident scene on the freeway or something, and there might be someone who's passed on, and you might be intuitive, and they might hitch a ride home with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you go to a group, a psychic fair or something, and entities cross from one person over to another. So I check for that, okay? And that's basically what the non-physical entities are. Do you have any waywards, any ghost around you, basically? Would be the easiest way of putting it. Fallens, and I also put that in parentheses, ghosts. Fallens can be one of two things. They can also be ghosts, but they can be, instead of like the first one where they're just around you like a loved one, the other ones could be like malicious. You know, they could be the ones that rattle the pans at night or open the cupboard door or something. And so I check for that. And then fallens are basically fallen angels that are, they're not necessarily, well, they are bad, I'll be honest with you. If you get fallen angels around you, they're almost like not being possessed, but they can make your life a living hell.
Oh, God.
You know. Oh, and so that is why you do not, I will get rid of them, and I will, I check to find out if you have them or not. The Anunnaki, almost every single person has them, okay? And the reason why is because that's how we basically these parasites, and that's why we've been fighting them. You know what I mean?
Basically, so what you're saying is these bioetheric implants came from the Anunnaki? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, that's what I felt.
Okay.
And I have not seen anyone who have not had somewhere in their lifetimes, because I believe in reincarnation, that they have not had these implants put into them.
So, Jerry, go ahead. Sorry.
And so when I deal with them, and here again, because of my extraterrestrial dealings and knowing how to walk among different alien races, I can get rid of a lot of this stuff. I know that one day I need to write the laws to govern this world of what extraterrestrials can truly do and cannot do. But since I know the bylaws and the laws to govern this world, I can make sure that if you do have them bothering you, I can get rid of it. Also, the same thing with the praying mantis or the grays. And there are two types of grays that I basically write, which is the military grays and then benevolent Greys. And basically, benevolent Greys are the ones that come, like I don't go to the doctor, or I didn't go to the doctor at one time, and I got really sick. And I actually remember them coming and working on me more than one time. They watch over me. In fact, my teacher from my extraterrestrial experience was a Grey from young childhood. And I still remember I remember a lot of my experiences with the Greys, and also the praying mantis.
Now, Jerry, I'd like to interject something about the Greys, and this is just the experience I've had. I have been communicating with 11th dimensional. They refer to themselves as Greys, but they're very, very white and small. And they tend to be the ones that, as you said, they do a lot of healing work. Are those the ones that you actually work with or see, or?
I have, and I also worked with the taller Greys.
Okay.
In fact, there's a long story I could get into that because of my relationship with the praying mantis that are the hierarchies of the insect world, insectoid world, I should say. I don't even want to be. I just put it this way: if I ask them to do something, they basically do what I ask them to do. And at this point, regardless if they're benevolent or not, I ask them to leave you. I ask them the part of you being healed and coming back into your true ascension, that their energy not be involved, because if you go through the DNA process, I don't want any contaminants in you. When you go back into this process, and that's why I like the 3-part, is once you're cleared of all entities and negativeness around you, and then you're reconnected with the purity and forgiveness and the grace of the divine creator, and it's truly you with no other influence of praying mantis, Palladians, Dracos. It doesn't matter what. It's just you are the pure entity coming back into your body. Because I try to get rid of everything right at this point. And I know that some people might complain, well, if I have a good implant, I don't want it removed. Or if it's a negative implant, remove it. But I see no difference, because here's the way I look at it. When you come to us, you ask us to do what we believe is the best for you. And the best thing that we can do for you is make you a whole, pure, spiritual being back into oneness of what you were in creation at the beginning. To be re-emerged back into this physical body as a pure spirit without any contamination of any other divinity or timeline within you.
Well, and
you truly start ascending.
The other thing, too, Jerry, is even if you're removing the so-called benevolent implant, once you go through this process, you don't, from what I know, the benevolent implants are primarily to increase their ability to get in communication with you. That's what I feel. And so once you go through this process, you don't really need that anymore, because you're really stepping fully into all the layers of the divinity that you actually are, which we've not been accustomed to.
You got it.
Okay, that's what I felt.
You learn to become your true spiritual identity.
Yeah, because you are a magnificent being. You are an empowered being. And I want to go back to something that you said before, which is knowing how to walk amongst the alien races. And you also mentioned that you have gotten to a point where if you say, hey, I want you to back off of this, and I want you to leave this person alone, and they are heeding your commands, I have received the same kind of information as well. And I'm wondering, Do you feel that is a process in which we step into, or do you feel that is an automatic gift, but we have to almost believe it or kind of earn our stripes in our spiritual walk? What's your view on that?
I believe for those who are enlightened, it's an automatic giving. It's not something you earn, because when I go back from the very beginning of time, the one thing I always notice is God, universe, created us all equal in every aspect of energy. It's just how we remember to use it. God did not create something better than another when it comes to unconditional love and connection to Source, God. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes, yes.
We are all equal. So the only thing that separates us is you have the spiritual side and then you have the physical. And that's the only thing that separates us, is the physical aspect of what we are. But in truth, the spiritual side is equal to everything of creation. And once you understand that, you walk in your mastery of saying to these beings, you do not have the right to do this unto my physical creation, because I occupy this space and time within this body to become to the highest potential of what I am, just like you did.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm just so glad that we got that reviewed, because that's a question that has come across my desk many times. Now, when you say knowing how to walk amongst the alien races, can you be a little bit clearer on that? And, what is your experience with the praying mantis? Because I do know that the praying mantis are very much a part of the Guardian Alliance. I know that they have overseen us and protected us in many ways. So I was curious, are there good and bad? I hate to use polarity statements here, but are there some that are not supposed to be with you and some that are? Working with you?
They all, on the praying mantis side, they do work with me, okay?
Right.
I told you the story about how I met the praying mantis because of what the Greys did to me when they put me back into my body. They didn't align me correctly.
Okay.
And I was going crazy. I'd go through mood swings. I'd go through points where I almost felt like committing suicide, because my focus would be almost out of perception in this world. And I knew what it was. It's because when I came back from one of the experiences I had with them, my synapses were not aligned 100%. I asked my great master, I said, I need something done about this. They arranged to take me to the benevolent. I call them benevolent. And here again, this is, you use that term good or bad. I found out when it comes to the praying mantis, I think they always work in the best interest, but if you don't understand what they're doing and it brings fear to you, you're going to look at it as a negative.
Good point.
Because my first experience, I was afraid of them. And the reason why is because it was the first time that I ever saw them in person, and what they wanted to do to me to get me aligned scared me. And since I had free will and I could turn around and run, literally they grabbed me and just threw me down, and that shook me up a lot. And then they held me while this being recalibrated my synapses.
Interesting. So basically that only happened because you basically gave permission and requested it.
Yes, because I could not live in the aspect of what I was going through. But I knew the reason why I was going through it.
Jerry, this is a really good point, because a lot of people right now, they they might write in and say that, you know, they're a targeted individual, feel like they're going crazy, you know, they can't seem to get from underneath all the psychic attack, but in reality, many of those emails almost sound very paralleled with this experience you had. So are you finding that a lot of the people that come through that maybe have that kind of experience where they're just desperately wanting to get from underneath that control, are you finding that the majority of them have been abducted and then they were returned back into their body without any kind of alignment with their synapses?
That's very possible. And as you know, one of my gifts is I can see energy. I can see the aura of a person, but not only that, I can, if someone's working on you or something, I can see the energy that they're using.
Yeah.
I can also, the other thing that, and you know this about me, is I literally can see the experience that you have went through.
Uh-huh.
When I give you a reading, I see visualization.
Interesting.
And so if someone has an experience, I literally can almost meld myself into seeing what they went through, the trauma or anything else. And the one thing I found out about what's happening, like you just said, is to get to the bottom of something, you need to ask the right questions.
I so agree with that.
Can I ask something, Jerry?
Yeah.
I had a question about, you know, because people feel like they're being hijacked. Is it really possible to be hijacked, or is it just, I mean, do you have to give permission, or can you just be like hijacked, you know, out of the blue? I mean, isn't there some kind of higher self, your higher self actually gives permission for that to happen for the experience, or does something just like come in and just like take you over?
Okay, I need a little bit more detail because our government did supposedly make an agreement with a certain gray faction, and if the military grays, if they're being hijacked by them, that's one thing. If they're just in their room and then aliens come in, that's another. So when you mean hijacked,
my whole point is can you really be hijacked without your higher self's permission? That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Wow. That's really sad.
Well, here's the reason why. And it's not because I made an agreement, you know, I know that people say you make contracts and all like that. But right now, because of this new energy shift, I truly believe that contracts are null and void, because if we still were tied energetically to each other through contracts, it would make it almost impossible to individually ascend to evolve.
Yeah.
And that energetic energy, if you notice, there's a lot of conflict in the world, but the world normally, if you looked at the Mayan calendar, it would go either in a peak or it would just go downward.
Uh-huh.
But we're all over the map energetically right at this point. There are people coming into their knowledge and their remembrance of who they are. And there's some people who just want to stay and keep the quota the same.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So right now, in my opinion, it's the best time to be alive in a lot of ways, because you have freedom of true individual choice. And as far as the hijacking goes, if you don't want to be hijacked and you know that it's happening, I taught a class in this, you can ask for an arbitration hearing as long as you ask the right questions when you're being hijacked and who's doing it. You have to, basically ask what race it is, who they are, and did you tell them no that they couldn't do that? Because here again, on the planetary laws, what we do to each other physically is one thing, but what we do to each other spiritually is completely different by the laws of creation.
Yeah. Now, Jerry, that's really important to share that information with people, because there are some that are just so severely targeted by, certain extraterrestrials, and which are typically going to be military oriented. What exactly is the process of the arbitration hearing? Can you give people a little bit of background on that?
Okay. It's like this. Basically, if someone knocks on your door, I guess the old way of saying for a vampire, as long as you don't invite them in, there's nothing that they can do to you. If you do not invite in basically extraterrestrials, and you say, no, I do not want you, in the name of the Holy Father, I command you to go away. They do have to go away. Okay?
Okay.
And that goes with demons, that goes with anything else. But you have to have the true affirmation, the belief in yourself that you actually have the power to do that because of your connection to source energy. Okay? At that moment, you are basically a Christ incarnated body or spirit saying, no, I do not want you to touch me. I do not go away. And they, from what I understand, they will leave. But now this military, because because our government made a contract with them, if you tell them to go away and they still don't do it, the only thing that you can do at that point is, and this goes on the spiritual plane again, there's a council that you can go to of arbitration and seek restitution spiritually.
Okay. Now, what if the person is not psychic enough to know how to call in that council of arbitration? Do you have any suggestions on that?
Well, the arbitration is basically something that, with me, I had an experience with the Greys again. And they didn't allow me to do something, and I took them to what we would call an arbitration council, and I got what I wanted because I knew that spiritually I had the right to do it.
Right, right.
And I'm leaving out a lot of blanks. It's the same thing. If you don't have the ability to do that, that's why you call in higher energy. That's why you call on the Christ energy, or Michael, or the angels, or you call on God Himself to come and protect you. Not even as a physical being, but as a spiritual being of energy. Mm-hmm. I am your creation, dear Father, and I need your help at this point. Come to my rescue and protect me from this creation.
Ooh, I like that. I think I'll put that up there with this interview. I
know, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm your creation, dear Father. Please come help me. Well, that is nice. We'll have to write that down. So what about for those that invited these kind of miscreants in from prior lifetimes?
Okay. That you can do. And at this point, luckily, and here again, this is what I can do. That is why I go back from the beginning of time itself, before the creation of time, and find them just before the emergent creation of us coming into physical existence.
Okay.
And from that point, when they go through this process of the soul alignment and the DNA process, we can clear all those energetic connections up so they can't be bothered, and then bring them into strength and unity, into their new presence of connection of their essence, their spirit, their soul, their subconscious, their mental mind, their emotional mind, and their physical body.
Wow. It's like a major tune-up.
It's the best way to clear out all contaminants and negativity through all the space-time corridors.
That's incredible. Quick question, Steve. I know Steve and I have used the arbitration hearing in a couple of circumstances of our lives that definitely kind of came with who we are and what we've come here to do. Do you find that arbitration hearing is something that's, it's actually kind of a necessity to be used by those that have taken a more assertive role in, you and I talked about this before, Jerry, where if you've come here and one of your purposes is to assist people on a really grand scale, there's a number ratio, like you are going to impact a very large group of people and you're being targeted. Is that arbitration hearing something that should just kind of be automatically looked at and reviewed by people that tend to do that for their spiritual work?
Good question. It all depends on the circumstances of what is happening. If it's a spiritual matter, then I say go to the arbitration if it can't be resolved. But if you can do it without doing that, then use it through the power of knowing who you are. The power of what we are is creation. And the strength and belief of your identity of who and what you can do as an individual and the rights that you have to govern these physical bodies over other physical creation. So you don't need the arbitration council unless it's something that really cannot be attained any other way. Mm-hmm. Human beings are very powerful, and we're becoming more powerful, in my own opinion, every day in the aspects of our spiritual continuity, our awakening, our discovery of self-identity. And just by the mere fact that we have people that we can help that want true change in their life, it shows that we are growing in consciousness, right, and in spiritual growth. So unless something really traumatic happened, like, for example, I wasn't aligned correctly, I didn't need to go to the council to do that. I just asked the people responsible to correct the situation, and they did. Mm-hmm. Or the Graves, actually. I asked them to correct it, and they did.
Right. Because I find, I was going to say, I find that, and I know Steve and I have talked about this many, many times regarding the types of families that many of the guardians and the light warriors out there are born into. And they're very, very dysfunctional. They're very, very damaging to the nervous system, and they cause a lot of soul fragmentation for very obvious reasons. So, for that particular type of starseed, I'm just wondering, do you see any kind of pattern there in which you have to remove?
That we can do through the process that we're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
With your elixirs and everything else to help the body actually go into a higher vibrational energy, and the cleansing and the removal of negative energy and the DNA activation, because that's really important to the DNA, because even if you are spiritually aligned again and your chakras are all balanced and you're becoming one, the preparation of the DNA, and when I've looked into people, I've actually seen them start developing more than one strand of DNA. The great thing about what we do is that transition of that DNA is we are reawakening a lot of the, what they call the dormant DNA part of ourselves. We are helping to expand the mind through that opening and bringing in a higher spiritual aspect of what we are into these physical bodies. So the way I've always looked at this was, as my DNA becomes more activated, I'm actually creating a new template, a new higher spiritual body for my next incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I got off track on your question probably, but it all comes down to this. The people that have these problems with their energetic energy, we can take care of that through awakening new DNAs and bringing in the energy of who they are onto their self again and helping them remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really, do you agree that even though, because this is what I've gotten when I'm making the essences, do you agree that even though we are almost like reattaching or reawakening the DNA strands, they aren't going to fully fire up until that individual is good and ready? What is your comment on that?
It does work that way, but it also goes like this. Their vibrational frequency goes up because Mother Earth itself is going up. They will attune to that DNA transformation a lot easier. And as long as they're not afraid or go out and start doing something with it, like they might notice that they have more intuitability, more clairaudience ability, hearing voices or something, like they might become a medium.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might become more psychic, or they might become more intuitive. Or the one thing I really hope that they start remembering is what I call intuitive knowledge. They just know what is right without ever having to read someone else's information of what is right.
That is such a good point, huh Steve?
Yeah.
I feel like that part of me has really soared. I always had a very strong knowingness, but once I had the SA DNA done, it just kind of transferred me to more of an ability to access my own library, I guess is the best way for me to say it.
Well, here's the other thing. I wanted to ask a question here for Jerry, because you talk a lot about the mind. How does that relate to the heart? Because everyone tells us to come from the heart, and you're talking a lot about the mind. Can you expand on that as far as how the mind is involved in all this?
Okay, Jer.
Okay. Yeah, and then I want to get back to one other thing real quick. The mind is just the physical aspect of processing the information that we already know. Okay. It actually has more synapses and nervous systems, not nervous systems, but synapses and neurons in it than supposedly there are stars in the galaxy.
Wow.
And on that note, all we're really doing is, with our mind, is understanding how we perceive our physical universe.
Mm.
But the main thing comes into the heart. The heart has twice as much information, synapses, neurons in it than the brain does. And to me, when you really operate from the first and second heart in this physical world, that is when you start learning the true power of what you are. Because you can take the mind of the universe and actually transform that energy that comes into us through thought. And because you know how to use it in divine order of the heart, of knowing how to unconditionally love, because you have more than just the human heart, you also have a spiritual heart now. That's when you can do the things that the masters have done before us. Walk on water, in my opinion, turn water into wine, heal the sick, because you understand the creation of energy.
Interesting.
So that's how Jesus came in. He came in with that heart energy, right?
I believe so. And I believe the more you activate the heart, the easier it is for transformation and becoming higher in energy. Because it's not something the mind can actually literally, logically put an equation to, in my opinion.
Right, so the mind is basically like an interface between, the feelings of the heart and stuff, so we can actually perceive this stuff, right?
Right, and the heart, that's true. It's the photonic energy of information that is transferred from the photon into the mind to the electron. But it's actually the heart that gives you the ability of knowing how to control and master that information. Because if the heart doesn't have to deal with the subconscious, the ego, it doesn't have to, it's not divided between a right and left hemisphere in the aspect of a logical and a creative side. It functions in one unity.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for that. That was a great question, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. And can I go back to one other thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry. And then I have another question for you.
Okay, you talked about arbitration. The one thing I would say that if you've been involved in military experiments, like let's say Montauk, for example, that is when I would probably go to arbitration. Because now extraterrestrials, even if they do have permission to do things on you by another human being, they are still spiritually held responsible for the acts of hurting your divine divinity and your process to God.
Wow.
And that is not allowed.
And there's so much of that going on. There's just so much of that going on. Well,
how does that happen? How do you get, hijacked on that? I mean, if it's so against the law, then, how does it happen?
Because does everyone obey the law, Steve?
No.
And that's why we have people like us that enforce the laws in a spiritual continuity and a physical means.
Very good. Now, you made a comment about the chakras, and there's a lot of controversy about chakras, and should I get rid of my chakras, and chakras are negative, and they've only been on our bodies as like another program to be able to control us. What are you seeing, and what is your opinion on that?
The chakras go with the 7 rays of the masters, and I think there's 12 now.
Okay.
Okay. But to me, while you're physically developing within the acclimation of this body again, I think the chakras serve a purpose. Because when things go off in you, you can tell if you're honest to yourself, like if you have stomach problems, okay? That's the orange, the spectrum. You know that you have an emotional upbringing, so you should look into what's bothering you, what's mentally happening to you in your life.
Right.
The heart chakra, it's really important because if you can't love and you can't love yourself, then you have to understand why is your chakra closing down? What is stopping you from finding love that you so deserve? So the throat chakra, some people can't talk because the throat chakra is closed off. So I think they're important if you understand the reference to what they mean energetically to the body.
Do you feel, Jerry, that they were actually created by the Anunnaki to be detrimental, or do you feel that they are actually part of the divine physical blueprint?
I can answer that in 2 ways. Even if they were created by the Anunnaki, let's say. Once you come into power of true connection, because this body's ours, what happens when you mix all 7 colors together?
They become white.
They become white. And what do we, as human beings, represent white light with?
Well, what do we represent it with? Or are you saying we equate it?
In the spiritual aspect, when you say, what do we invoke? We invoke light.
The white light, yeah.
The white light. So basically, once you become high enough in energy, and you become a rainbow luminescent light again, you're basically bringing all the colors of the chakras together. So does it really matter as long as you learned how to master your own being?
Very good point. Very good point. Well, okay, so let's get back to the soul alignment. So just to make sure we finish this up, because we have about maybe, I don't know, say 20 more minutes, if that. Can you clarify exactly how you're actually aligning the soul to the physical body?
I hate to give away. I can. I honestly can.
Okay. Well, no, I just mean...
But it's a lot of information. I don't want to give away a lot of our trade secrets. Just the fact that I go back to the very beginning of time, before the creation of time, and find you. Okay. And then once we emerge from that very particle of creation, that's when I go to the essence of what we are before any negativeness, any Dracos, Greys, reptilians, Anunnaki, Archons, or anything, are still in creation. And I ask for the highest purity of salvation of the spirit to follow you throughout time.
Well,
all the way to this. So basically I'm taking you from before time to the creation of time to present time to the future time and through infinite time.
Okay. Cool.
Reconnecting you in a spiritual continuity of one, whatever, you'll always be spiritually connected to divine source, regardless of what happens. That's a given.
Okay.
But the other thing is what we're doing, and I use my Atlantean technology, and I use crystals, and I use other means. In fact, I even use some of the remedies that you give me to, like I said, anoint and bless these people that we have the honor of working with or on. And when I do this soul alignment, I'm literally going through stages of their evolution within physical creation and bring them back in their soul fragments from different timelines or different dimensions to become in oneness. And how I do that is I do that with the Christ consciousness, the Divine Father, their higher self, and I back from the beginning of time all the way to present moment of time. Now think about that. If you lived 14 billion years, because that's how old the universe is, or whenever you decide to come into creation onto this planet, you might feel some discomfort. I try to make it as easy as a process as I can do.
Wow.
And I work with you, and this is why the one thing, and it's so hard to answer that question, because every single person that I find and have worked on so far, what I said for one person might not apply to the next person because their experiences, like beings, have been different than the person I just worked on.
Right, right.
So I do a healing for every single person and an energetic cleaning with every single person. Now, with every single person now, I do ask for divine guidance of what they truly do need. And in that aspect, I do ask universal source to only bring in the highest and best of what they are. And to me, the Christ consciousness just means, how do I treat my other fellow created beings, okay? It's not Christ himself. It's the essence of true unconditional love to everything else that exists, so you can love yourself in harmony and raise your own vibration. Okay?
Okay.
So there's no harm in that. When I ask for the Christ energy, it is that energy of who you are from the moment of that creation of time.
Wow.
To become as powerful as you were then, to remember who you are so you can be just as powerful as now. And hold that link and that divinity between you and divine source.
And you know, you talked to me the other day about how, you know, DNA activations have been around for, I think, at least 20 years, maybe longer. And we were talking a little bit about, you know, what people are ready for it, what people aren't ready for it. You know, does it have to be something that's delivered to them, or, you know, can they actually seek it out? What is your response to that?
Because we have to will, you can do anything that you want. The real question is, do you have the knowledge to be able to activate your own DNA? And I've known kids that went out and had like 12 strands activated at one time. And I looked to see what they were, but they didn't really need all 12 because their vibrational energy didn't hold it.
Good.
Because I can see what a person needs, and I walk with them personally as a spirit in unity with them.
Mm-hmm.
When we activate their DNA, they have the two earth ones, but they might bring in two etheric ones. For one, they need that transformation of energy because their vibration is only going to keep going up. And I think even the kids nowadays that are being born, I think that their DNA is higher than just two, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of them are being with 3 and 4 strands now.
And to be equal onto them, and that's the wonderful thing about our Creator. He doesn't leave us to become weak. He gives us the ability to be just as strong as long as we are willing to seek out and become in unity of his gifts.
Right, right.
And that DNA, like I said, when we do the DNA, I also do the same process basically. I go back with them from the beginning. Now that they are cleared of the negative energy, now that they're reconnected, and find out, does it suit you to have 4 or 12? Because what are you going to do with it? Because once that DNA has been activated, just like Steve has found out, you found out, and I found out, and I'm sure countless other people, start using it. Now this is where the teaching comes in. That's why I said I want the masters to guide you. Ask them. It's always about asking the right questions. Prove unto thyself that what you have seen is true.
Mm-hmm.
So say, I wish to be a healer. Remember when I first met you?
Yeah.
I gave you a reading?
Yes.
And you already were a healer. All I did was say, show me what you can do.
Right. That's very true.
And the same thing. Once they get their DNA activated, I mean, if we could teach classes or have a place where people could go and say, now that I have this, what can I do with it?
Yeah.
That was the true blessing. You know, you wonder why people followed the masters in Christ, even 300 years after his demise, you know. And let me correct that too. The resurrection as well, if you believe that. People still followed him.
Right.
Even though they were being tortured and killed and crucified. they still followed someone who taught them how to become a master in their divinity of this creation of the physical body. That is what the DNA process does for you, in my opinion. If you're not afraid of becoming and stepping into your empowerment, the DNA just gives you the ability to create the heart to become more, and the physical mind to understand who and what you are. And that is what I think that people followed the masters, you know, and especially Christ for over 300 years after the fact, because he activated their DNA. He activated their ability to remember what they were from the divine creation. And they were being able to go out and start using, as he would say, the Christ abilities. Well, you might not be able to turn water into wine, but if you can generally go out and help someone and heal someone or give someone a reading, that to me is a divine miracle in its own self.
Yeah.
If you never had that ability to before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
well,
you know,
Jerry,
go ahead, Steve.
Jerry, I mean, it's really weird because, you know, we had Thanksgiving dinner together, and I was doing a healing on Marcia, and that was the first time that I actually felt like I really did something, because you told me, you go, oh my God, I looked at you, and you saw the energy coming in through my crown chakra, and it was going down my arm, going into my pendulum, and it was actually taking that energy and, you know, just shooting it out in all directions. And that's like the first time where it was like a confirmation that I could actually do something, you know, because I was always just playing around with it, you know, and then at that point, I realized that I really did have some kind of ability there.
You took the responsibility and the ownership because you were doing what you did at the time out of love for someone who you cared about.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really good point, because I just went through that. I did a healing on a gentleman with Parkinson's who has a right arm that's been terribly shaking, and I just you know, followed my guidance, and I ended up doing a healing on his brain, and I had to sever something had fused together within the brain, and I had to really work on it. But you know, when I was finished, I was just, you know, actually amazingly shocked and pleasantly surprised because his arm stopped shaking. And it did once again really bring home to me that this was not something I had a super ton amount of confidence or even the ability to take my healing abilities all the way to the end without the assistance of the saDNA. So, I mean, in my opinion, it's really helped me define myself and what I really want to do, you know, what I really enjoy doing, what I want to bring to the planet. It's just been incredibly, you know, empowering. So, well, is there anything else that you feel you need to, you know, clarify as far as the process? I know that some people have had questions about the blue lady from the Pleiades.
Okay, some people believe that she is also their version of Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's why I put her in it, because it just means that they have protection. They have kind of like an angel watching over them. Okay, but they also can have when you have the blue lady, it means you yourself have a spiritual continuity. You're probably intuitive. You probably have some kind of psychic ability, or you're an empath or something, even if you don't understand it or know it. That's all.
Okay. Okay, and what about the benevolent grays?
Okay, the benevolent grays are normally 3 to 5 feet tall. They're kind of lighter skin, not the real dark ones.
Uh-huh.
The ones that I have dealt with all my life have been benevolent.
Uh-huh.
And they're basically teachers. Now, if you have benevolent grays in your life, there could be one of two reasons. One, because you actually do stuff with them at night, and so you'll wake up tired in the morning because they'll come and get you, and either whether it be in an astral state of being or physical, you will go out and you'll learn, you'll teach, you'll help hybrid children, or you just have a connection with them.
Right.
Like you said, in a spiritual aspect from your past lives.
Right.
The other thing is, it also could be just because you have other entities watching over you. The Greys do a lot of work. Not all races get their hands dirty. So if you need, like I did at one time, I was really sick. So the Greys came to me and they basically healed me. They brought down my fever. They did all this stuff on me because I was too stubborn to go to the doctor. And that's the way that you are. You might have Greys in your life that watch over you because you have an important reason for being here.
Right. Right. Very good point. Well, Jerry, we just want to thank you for, clarifying a little bit more so that there's not confusion as to why the second and third part of the process are really, truly important. And what I would say is, for those of you that feel that maybe you're not ready for it, then just wait for the time when you are. But we do have, we kind of have a policy that there needs to be a certain amount of time between each process so that your body can assimilate. But if you're anything like me, I'm one of those kind of people that I am a consciousness bunny, and I crave every day of my life to increase my consciousness. And with that increase in consciousness, both Steve and Jerry will agree, you got to do a lot of house cleaning. This isn't just about, becoming more spiritual and things get, what I'm going to say is things get less complicated, because in some ways, while you're in the purification process, while you're in the assimilation process, you're really doing some house cleaning with programs that have been installed and ways in which you've seen your reality, and you start realizing that a lot of that you thought was your reality is a fallacy. So, Jerry, did you have anything to say regarding that?
I just wish everyone the best, and I'm so grateful for you allowing me to help you through this transition and giving me the honor of working with you spiritually. And I thank you, Alexandra and Steve, for having me on your team.
Well, we thank you too. And Steve?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. And Steve, did you have anything to say before we tie this up?
No, it's just, I'm just really grateful. I know Pam's here with us now.
I know.
And
yeah.
I feel her right now.
Me too.
And she's always been with us, and, the only thing I can say is that she's so grateful to have you, Jerry. She's telling me right now that you're the only one that can take her place.
Wow. And carry the torch. I'm going to start.
And it's an honor to do so.
She goes, you're my son.
We love you, Pam. Okay, well, listen, I got to tie this up because we're going to be coming to the end of the 2 o'clock time frame. I mean, the 2-hour time frame. So I just want to thank Stephen Meadors and Jerry Yusko for coming on today to just hopefully answer some of the questions that you all have been pondering. If you're at that point where you're trying to make a decision about moving through this entire process, not just the first, but the second and the third. If you have any further questions, feel free to drop an email. You can also visit us at galacticconnection.com. You can also drop an email at galacticmarie@gmail.com. She handles all the administration and canvassing the questions, and then kind of diverts them to any of us that maybe you need more clarification. So we just want to thank all of you from our hearts to yours. We love you all. We're here to serve you and to serve Prime Creator in the best way possible. So take care. Have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you later. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.